Sick Harrison Price for Wednesday, September 24th, 2025. And we're a presentation of Bet365. We're coming to you from the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studio here at the historic Wall Center. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. Matt Sikaris alongside Blake Price, four-time Juno Award winner Mike Rogerson, hitting switches and conducting things. I had a little bit of an echo there. I apologize.
I think it was my computer, don't worry.
Oh.
No apology needed?
I know it was my computer, as a matter of fact.
Oh,
so
okay.
I will take the E&O for tomorrow and do the diagnostics and tell me if you join me in that category of shame. Today, the Redwoods Golf Course poll question. Oh, by the way. Because you're such a weather aficionado. Like, Blake's the guy who's got the Doppler at home. Like, Blake's the guy who is on the weather and proud of it. We went to the beach yesterday after her work. A little crisp. Wasn't too busy. Is that our last beach day of the year?
Yeah. I mean, there's going to be nice fall days, those crisp fall days where it's nice to go on a walk on the seawall. But when were you actually
I'm
beach
talking
it up?
in shorts on the beach.
Yeah, I think it might have been.
Yeah.
It might have been.
Believe it or not, there's some rain in the forecast, everybody.
Grab your canoes.
Good weekend to stay at home and watch all the hockey and all the Ryder Cup and all the football and the soccer.
Got to clean the garage.
It's a good dry weather activity.
Yeah. Well, the spring cleaning. People love the spring cleaning. People don't talk about the fall cleaning. I want a cluttered house in the fall.
The Redwoods Golf Course poll question, do you think the Canucks will have a team identity this season? Yes or no? You can vote at the Sick Harrison Price X and YouTube channels. If you're voting yes, reply with what you think it will be. Take you back to Adam Foote prior to training camp where they had their season opening media availability, and he was asked about team identity. And, of course, this was a big mystery because Foote was a loyal Rick Tocchet assistant, but we had never heard from him. He sort of punted on that question in his introductory press conference. And so we were sitting there thinking, okay, does the acorn fall far from the tree? Is Foote going to play like Tocchet did, big chip and chase guy, or is he going to be different? Does he see the game differently, have a different style identity he wants to forge? His answer, and I'm on record, like I loved his answer about adaptability, that, you know, we're going to play to that night's opponents. If they're a fast team, we're going to play a certain way. If they're a heavy team, we're going to play a certain way. I love that because I think that's the next level. I think like it's easy for a coach to come in and say, we're doing this and we're going to practice this day after day and we're going to get great at this and this will be our identity. And that's all well and good until you come up against an antidote, a team that, you know, understands the way you play and is able to negate it. So I like the notion that, yes, you're going to have to play different styles to win in the National Hockey League and ultimately to win a Stanley Cup. I think you can argue the Edmonton Oilers have fallen short against the Florida Panthers the last 2 years, and in part because of the way they play and in part because they haven't been able to adapt to the Panthers game. But I see a lot of angst out there about adaptability as an identity. It's not the traditional old school hockey coach answer. So if you're voting yes, reply with what you think it will be. We have a good conversation with Frank Corrado coming up on this. Frank is excellent on the X's and O's, and he has his skepticism is up on this. You tell me. What do you think? Where did you vote on the poll? And if you did vote yes, what will the identity be?
I think they will, and I think we don't know what it is yet. Like adaptability is a quiver. Is an arrow in the quiver, but it doesn't describe what the quiver's end goal is. Adaptability is a skill. You need a semblance of it as a sports team. But ultimately, I don't think we know what this identity is going to be, because you need to see the totality of the roster, the skill sets that everybody brings to the table, and then how that meshes with the system that Adam Foote is bringing to the table. And we often joked about the no plan back in the general managing days of Jim Benning. Well, a coach has to have a plan. A coach has a system. Like that's what coaches do in all sports. And so if you're going to tell me that he's got 5 systems, that seems dangerous for me. And if he's got a system that has minor tweaks, depending on the opponent, I mean, I think we're getting bogged down here about the strength of, if it's capital A adaptability or lowercase a, because I would guess that every coach has lowercase a adaptability. But they still have a system. They still have an identity that overrides all of that.
But you were amongst the loudest last year in saying this Tocchet system doesn't effing work for some of these players, including Elias Pettersson, including Nils Höglander, and some of the guys who really struggled to find their offense last year.
And what?
Well, what I'm saying is you and many, many others have said you have to have different rules for your offensive players who are comfortable on the puck. So is that in and of itself not some degree of adaptability? Like, for me, if Adam Foote came out this year and said, look, Bluger line, Ratu line, you're going to be a chip and chase team, you're going to be a dump and chase team, I don't want to see anything fancy at the opposition's blue line. Your job is to get pucks deep, lay the body, hopefully retrieve them, get them to the net front area, and score mucky, ugly goals. And then if he said, Pettersson Chytil lines, guess what? I don't want you playing that way. I want you guys possessing the puck over the blue line, having control in the offensive zone. You don't have to worry about being benched if there's the occasional turnover in that portion of the ice. But you're the guys who I need to score, and you are the guys that I'm going to empower to have the puck on their stick and maybe make more risky plays than what the Bluger and Ratu lines.
But that's just sports. That's what
but
most coaches will do.
But that's adaptability, Blake. Like, that's basically saying I'm going to cater what I want to the specific skill sets of my personnel. And yeah, that's not necessarily going to forge a specific team identity, because half the time, or more than half the time, 60-70% of the time, when my top 2 lines are out, we're going to play this way. And the other shifts in the game, when it's my bottom 6 guys, we're going to play that way. What's wrong with that?
Connor McDavid has different rules than the fourth liner on the Oilers. That's just normal.
So why are we getting wrapped up in the term identity? Why do I see so much angst about that Adam Foote answer and say, "Oh, the Canucks will have no identity again this year"? Like,
well, I don't think that should be the default position. That adaptability, not being an identity, does not mean that they have no identity. I think you have to see what this team's identity is after you've seen how it all works together. I mean, ultimately, I would say the only angst I would have about the claim is it, like we saw with Rick Tocchet last year in this team. When you don't have an identity, it generally means you're not a very good team. It generally means you don't have the skill to allow those guys on longer leashes to do their thing, because guess what? They don't have a thing to do. Like, there is no high-end skill, so I can't give you the long leash because I'm not giving you the long leash to do nothing. So you dumb down the game when you aren't very good. Teams that are good get identities. Teams that are competitive get identities by the skill sets of the individual players that have them. So I don't know that it was even necessarily a very fair question for Adam Foote. It's so early in his junction. He's got to know what he's got to work with. And despite being an assistant coach last year, he had he had a job with boundaries. Mm-hmm. And he was focused on that, and I don't know that he necessarily had the wide lens on as to what the whole team looks like.
So I've got Cameron here in my mentions. There's adaptability, but there's also a system structure in behind that. It's not just adapting to the opponent. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Okay. And for those of you on YouTube, if you want in on this, hit that super chat button right now. Half proceeds to the BC Mental Health Foundation. If you got a question on that, or if you've got a take on that, we'd like to hear from you on the YouTube super chat. Look, this is a sport. Corrado's told us this in the past too. This is a sport that no matter how many plays you have drawn up, they almost never work, right? Like it's a sliver percentage of the time
Power play
where it
defensively.
happens exactly the way coach has drawn it up in the whiteboard. It is a sport governed by the spontaneous bounces of a frozen rubber disc. So the best laid plans oftentimes go out the window. It's not like this is football where it's a coach-driven sport. Every play has a design where every player has to be in a certain spot, and if everybody executes it, it should work. So let's just put that on out there. What I will say is, while I do find myself in the minority, I think, who liked that answer and understood what Foote was getting at, I do think it's going to be difficult. I do think it's going to be difficult, particularly early in the season, because you just haven't had a lot of practices under your belt. Mm-hmm. We take a look at the opening month or even the opening week's schedule for the Vancouver Canucks. Open Thursday, August 9th at home against the Calgary Flames. And let's face it, the success that the Flames had last year was very much a function of their rookie goaltender, Dustin Wolf, playing a hard, industrious, competitive. We understand we're limited offensively. Okay, maybe Kadri, Huberdeau, maybe the kid Coronado have a little bit of offense that they can explore and add a couple of decent defensive defenders who can bring a little bit of offense in Anderson and Weegar. But needless to say, a team that more often than not, when it wins games, is going to win games with 2 goals, 3 goals, 4 goals. Then you're into Edmonton 48 hours later, a team that easily, is going to win games 5, 6, 7 goals a lot of nights because of their incredible offensive firepower. So I can understand Foote wanting to play 2 different ways against those 2 Alberta opponents, and I think that's probably wise. I do wonder if it's going to be a lot to bear and a lot to process for the players, particularly new line combinations, particularly new defense pairs, new 5-man units that are out there, because there's not a more dumbed-down, simple way to play that they're going to be able to drill in a little firmer in what practices they do.
And that's a perfect example. These first 2 games are a perfect example of how every team adapts, quote-unquote. Like, every team goes into a game with the high-flying Oilers and says, mind your gap. They're a fast team.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to be careful about how much space we give them lest you get burned on the outside. Every team does that. No team is like, whoa, that was weird how they kept on going around us. Like, every team knows that. So every team is aware of who the opposition is. But there's still a backbone that of rules that the team does work upon. Now, let's hope this team has a number 1 center in Elias Pettersson that behaves like a number 1 center. Let's hope that this team has a number 2 center that behaves like a number 2 center, probably in Filip Chytil, that allows, again, Adam Foote to take away the shackles of when you get to the blue line, throw it into a corner. Let's hope those shackles come off because the team earns those shackles coming off and they aren't forced back into it because that's the only way to keep the puck out of your own net.
Let me ask you this. I think one of the reasons why the Canucks struggled last year and why some guys had really poor seasons in the Tocchet system is because not only were they a dump and chase, chip and chase team, but Rick also valued possession and as a defensive tactic to the point where players were instructed, we are not the Carolina Hurricanes that are going to shoot from everywhere. When we get possession in the offensive zone, we want to pass it around and look for that grade A shooting opportunity. Look, I think that caused them. I think that compounded with dump and chase, chip and chase last year to cause some of the problems and offensive problems they have. Blake, I'm not sure they have that luxury this year.
No.
And I don't think we know where Foote stands on that yet. I don't think he's been asked specifically, or I've hasn't come across my radar. But I'll say it now. Like when I look at this lineup and the top six, and of course, hoping for Pettersson bounce backs, Brock to be a little bit more like he was 2 years ago. Kane coming off all the injuries and the surgeries after missing all of last regular season. Chytil, of course. And then the other guys. Blake, I am ready for Rod Brindamore shoot from everywhere and hope to get a juicy rebound hockey out of this coaching staff and this team, because I'm just not sure you have enough skill through the club to be able to consistently generate those grade A shooting and scoring opportunities with possession in the offensive zone by working the puck, passing the puck around and working it into dangerous areas. I'm not sure that skill level's there.
No, exactly. Being a picky team is a luxury when you are highly, highly skilled and you got the guys to pull that off. Don't look
or you're a sensational defensive team like they were 2 years ago, right? And could bank on the fact that more often than not, we're giving up 1, 2, 3 goals, and so we can be a little choosier.
Even then, my God, can you imagine?
It worked for a full season and through nearly 2 playoff rounds. So,
no, I think you pull the reins back on, leaning on shots rather than no shots when you see that as a problem. When the Canucks are blowing so many shots into shin pads and they're ending up in odd man rushes the other way, call it when it becomes an issue, but I think I would default to shooting rather than choosing in the early going as well.
Yeah. Well, yesterday we agreed wholeheartedly. Today we had a little bit of disagreement.
Well, I mean,
Give me today.
The problem with no sample size right now is it's all just theory.
It's not just small sample size. It's no
sample size. We do have Dogtoberfest, though.
We do, and we'll get to that.
Oh, that's right. We're in the wrong spot.
Went a little long on the poll today.
Exactly.
Put you down for E's and O's. So satisfying. Yeah. Our friends at Redwoods Golf Course and their junior golf lessons for kids ages 6 to 16. Set your child up for the sport of a lifetime. Private and semi-private junior lessons available. They are flexible to your schedule. They have the magnificent practice and teaching facility at Redwoods. It's a large driving range. It is heated. It is covered. I see some rain in the forecast. Worry not. You can go to Redwoods, stay dry, and hit 100 golf balls if you'd like, and with the tutelage and instruction of their fantastic pro, Craig. There will be winter lessons available. We will tell you about them soon. Right now, go to redwoods-golf.com/instruction and book your private or semi-private lesson today. Time now for our top story. It's brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, Foolish Winery. They got Dogtoberfest on.
They do. I tipped my hand
Power play practice. We've been wondering all summer long how they will align on that first power play unit with no JT Miller and after the acquisition of Evander Kane. And yesterday we got our answer at practice. Elias Pettersson in his normal spot on the right half wall looking to unleash that big left-handed one-timer. Brock Besser in the bumper spot. We have seen Brock in the bumper spot before. Right shot, good shooter. I'm liking that as well. Jake DeBrusk as your net front guy. Evander Kane on the left boards. And, of course, Quinn Hughes, the maestro, walking that line like nobody has walked that line in NHL history up at the top. So I think we can all agree on Quinn and Elias.
Yep.
Besser in the bumper makes sense to me because I think he's a better shooter than Jake DeBrusk. And he's a right shot.
Which means he needs to be set up by somebody on the left side.
Which is Evander Kane, which brings me to Evander Kane on those left boards.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Blake, here's the thing. Like, the more I consider that, I mean, unless you want to substitute Garland a right shot for Kane and move some of the chess pieces around, I'm not sure there's a great answer there, dude. Like, with JT there, yeah, I could see it a little more clearly than I see it with Evander Kane, because JT, I think, is a better distributor than Evander.
I think Garland, to me, is the guy that fits better there.
Okay.
Better.
He's a right shot too, though.
Yeah, but that's fine. If you're setting up there, you're facing Quinn Hughes with his left shot. I that's keeping the puck on the outside, away from probing sticks of the opposition. I don't mind that.
Okay.
And that doesn't affect how the puck ultimately gets inside to Brock Besser, I don't think.
Now, the other possibility there, and again, I'm not sure this is ideal, because I'm not sure DeBrusk is the cleanest distributor, but you could put the left shot DeBrusk there in the Evander spot and make Evander the net front guy.
Yep, that would make some sense to me. My only worry there, and again, proof would need to be in the pudding before you're really worried about it. You know, with Evander net front and so hungry for a goal with the man advantage, where he's going to be living there. Like, it's one thing to say go to the net at 5-on-5. On the power play, you literally could be there for 90 seconds in a row.
And taking abuse and retaliatory.
And taking yourself off of the power play. Now, again, it's a problem that you worry about when it manifests itself, but that's immediately what comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
But in theory, I can understand why that would work as well, yeah.
So Coach was asked about this yesterday, and let's hear from Adam. First of all, I think you're going to see a lot of power play work at practice. Here's Foote.
Yeah, like, it'd be nice, right? I mean, you got Garley there too. Who knows? We got to see what happens. But I just like, once in a while in practice, I think it gets everyone going. And you know what? When you play the full ice like that at times too, like, you didn't see it happen today, but even our PK, it's normal for these guys. You don't want them to go hard, clears up the middle, because you don't want someone to get hurt. But off the glass, we want to, like, it matters. And you know, we'll touch on that too. So it's both our PK and our power play. But I think it gives some confidence and some touches early, and it really picks up practice.
That's good.
They're
gonna need to feast. Like, if this is a team, and I've seen people in the chat already today, I think we can finish second in the division. I'm not saying it's impossible, but if that happens, it has to be a top 10 power play.
Oh, I think so. And here's the thing: Canucks ranked 11th in the NHL last year in raw power play percentage at 22.7%. They actually ranked even better on net power play. I may have the wrong season. Nope. Forgive me. I have the wrong season. The bottom line is, that was 2 years ago. If you go back just 2 years ago, like, it worked pretty well. There was a lot of angst that season about the power play, and oh my God, it didn't work so well. It did pretty well. Now, again, JT was there.
Big factor.
Now, Vancouver's 22.5%, 15th last year. That's not too bad. 17th on net power play percentage when you throw the shorties in. So, for all the grumbling last year, it would drive you nuts when the puck would get to Pettersson and there was just like a hesitancy to do anything with it. I get it. I'm not saying it was an area of strength for the Canucks.
But it was close. It was close to being decent, and that's
it was close to being top 10, as you say, Blake. So and it wasn't that far. Like you always say, like it's not a big difference sometimes between mid pack and top 10. Number 10 last year was 24.2%, so a 1.7% conversion rate.
Do you have a goal difference? That would be an interesting
Vancouver.
one. The actual goal difference between the 10th ranked team and the 15th ranked team in the NHL. How many more goals does it add to the bottom line?
I will need a moment for that.
You can take that. But those are the kinds of moments where, again, if we're going to use the template of, the Canucks only need 3 more wins because they were a 90-point team last year, which has its flaws in logic. But if we're going to use that, the handful more goals that you get from jumping from a 15th ranked power play to a 10th ranked.
5.
Yeah,
5 goals.
there you go, handful.
5 goals over the course of 82 games.
You're looking for how they get 3 more wins? Can 5 more goals, timely goals, get you those 3
Oh,
wins?
there
That
were
might
so
be
many
it.
games last
Yeah.
year. J-Patty, he was going bananas recapping some of these games. There were so many games there for the taking in the third period, Blake.
Yeah, particularly late.
And I'm not even talking about the blown leads in the third period like we saw opening night Calgary. There were a number of games last year where you were tied or you were 1 goal back in the third period, where if that power play executes, you got at least the overtime point, if not the full 2.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't sound like a lot of goals, but in the grand scheme of things, it actually is.
Now you can tell them about Oktoberfest.
I love the theory of Oktoberfest
Mike,
and
you
the
had
execution.
You had the pretzel, but it was a souped up pretzel. What else was in the pretzel?
Oh, it was a full October platter. Pickles, sausages, sauerkraut, mustards. Wonderful.
I mean, if that doesn't bring you immediately into the Yellow Dog, I don't know what does. You can celebrate at home with your own German-inspired brews, of course, from Yellow Dog. But I would head in there for the eats if you're in the Penticton area. That is for sure.
The breading on the schnitzel was divine.
Yes. The brew's available in Port Moody. Go check it out. And enjoy Dogtoberfest until October the 17th.
Preseason game number 2 tonight in Abbotsford, where all eyes will be on the forward and defense hopefuls that are on the bubble. I know you want to get to Demko. Do you want to get to Demko here and then we go to the forward hopefuls and hear from Sassner? It's our first look at the new, happy Thatcher Demco. New father again for the second time. Big summer, was not held back by the popliteus. New training regimen, new members to his own personal team, more preventative. Our first look at all of this.
Just watching him warm
And
up even
yet-
today, like he's just kind of very loose. You know, it just you can almost read joy off of him. This is before a preseason game. So
you can read joy because last year is in the mirror, both team and personally for Thatcher. His buddy Brock Besser is back, and nobody thought that, right? We talked about vibes on Friday's show, that just the vibe around this Canuck team is so fresh, so clean, so happy to have last year in the rearview mirror. And frankly, Blake, I would think, though none of them would say it, probably happy to have number 9 on Broadway too.
you just saw there a little scoop, stopped everything that we just saw in that little sequence. Got some help from the Iron Ones, but a good omen for Thatcher Demco going into this. And again, baseline, the Canucks should be able to prevent a lot of goals. Question as we transition to the forwards perhaps is, will they be able to score enough on a regular basis to support a decent-looking blue line and a very good goaltending duo?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I again, there's not pressure on Chytil to get bottom line tonight, but I would love if he just took that off of our plate. You know, like it's a preseason game and it's the second of 6. So no, there's no actual pressure, but I always get a little bit of angst for the player that has done nothing in preseason, that like a veteran player. Like, just remind yourself, get the muscle memory of contributions if you can, assists and or goals. And so I'd love Filip Chytil to take that off the plate.
It's funny, Blake, because I think even in the 14 years that we've been doing this show, a veteran's attitude towards preseason has changed immeasurably, because what's happened in those 14 years, the phrase load management.
Yeah.
Right? And so every player, veteran player, top of lineup player, is acutely aware. We, of course, are asking them to play more games, and more on that in a moment with the Olympic year and Connor Garland's absence tonight. And players are very familiar with that. Do you remember Radim Verbata?
Mm-hmm. So
he has that really big year with the Twins.
Yep.
And then he comes back for his second training camp. And we all think, oh, well, it's going to be Verbata with the Twins again because it worked so well last year. And Willie D had different ideas. And Willie D played him with the different line in training camp. And look, time for experimentation for coaches. I get it. Like 2 points are not on the line. And it didn't go particularly smoothly. And then Verbata found himself back with the Twins, and the chemistry wasn't there as much. And then Verbata gave us that comment about, well,
I've been playing with 5 different guys.
Something along the lines of what I need out of preseason and training camp is to forge that chemistry with my line mates, and it's difficult when you don't get, I'm paraphrasing, it's difficult when you don't get a lot of time with the guys you're actually going to be playing with when it matters most.
Let's not experiment. Let's just nail down what we know works.
Yeah.
And I do wonder too, like
there has to be a balancing act though, Blake. Like Lekramaki with the second line, Chytil and Kane, very worthwhile.
Yeah.
If Garland has to play there, I get it. You might be setting Garland a little bit back if you haven't given him all the reps with Chytil and Kane, but that is something that I think is worthwhile for the Canucks, particularly long term, and for Lekramaki personally. So things like that I am wholly for.
For Chytil himself, though, as we wonder about his readiness to take on the offensive load, if he gets a couple of points tonight, a couple of assists, a goal and an assist, what have you, I wonder if it earns him, in a good way, less playing time the rest of the preseason. Like if the coach thinks, okay, honestly, he gets it. If he performs like if he goes over in his first 2, the coach might be like, okay, we need to get this guy going.
No, you don't need to get him going. No, he's a concussion risk. He's playing 2 straight preseason games, Chytil. I don't need to see him Friday. And in fact, I'm not even sure I need to see him Sunday.
Well, I think he plays 4 games for sure of the 6. Even now.
Well, I would assume, and again, new coach, so who knows, no book, but I would assume most of your veterans are playing next Wednesday, Friday in the final two preseason games.
Yeah.
In fact, I think next Friday is your full dress rehearsal, your night 1 lineup, maybe with 1 or 2 battles there, like 4th line wing, 3rd pair defense.
But as we talked about yesterday, Filip Chytil has not played a lot of hockey. This is not a guy coming off 82 games in back-to-back seasons. Like, he does need the hockey.
But Blake, he took a big wallop already once in the Seattle game. Just 4 is more than enough.
You gotta play the guy.
Well, no, you don't in preseason. You don't. You're playing him these 2 nights because he didn't play a lot of hockey. Great.
You're talking about you're talking about a chance encounter with another player. That chance encounter is available for 82 regular season games as well.
But as soon as we get to October 9th, that game matters a lot. These don't matter shit.
It's bad luck regardless. If it's going to happen, I think it's destined to happen.
No,
I think
I don't put him. Don't put him in the position for it to happen. I go to him after tonight and say, Filip, if you're good, like if you feel you're ready for the regular season, you are playing next Friday, the preseason finale against Edmonton, and don't worry about these games over the weekend and next Wednesday. If you tell me you need 4 games, great, you're doing 4 games. But 4 is my limit, Filip. Like, we don't need you playing 5 or 6 preseason games.
And I would fully agree. Like, if we're talking about if Elias Pettersson had concussion issues, proven excellent player. Well, let me get a guy that doesn't have the baggage of last year. If it's Jake DeBrusk or Brock Besser, absolutely, your approach is completely right.
All right.
This is a guy that hasn't played hockey, that has taken on the burden of being an offensive player. I think he needs to play.
All right. We'll agree to disagree. Back to the hopefuls. One of them up front is Max Sasson. Now, long shot is up against Linus Karlsson, Arshdeep Bains, Vitaly Kravtsov, Jonathan Lekramaki. A couple of those guys require waivers. One of them is their first, 2 of them actually are first-round picks if you count Kravtsov. He's been used at center at camp. And with the most obvious roster opening being on the wing, you wonder if that hurts his chances a little bit. Tonight, he will skate on a line with Surrey's Arshdeep Bains and Linus Karlsson, returning to Abbotsford Center, of course, as members of the Calder Cup champion Abbotsford Canucks. Here's Sasson talking about going back to play in Abbey.
Yeah, we were all talking about that before the preseason, how cool it would be if, we all played together in that preseason game, and then, seeing the lineup come out today and, me, Bainsy, Rats, Bainsy, Carly, Rats, Mancini, like Kudryavtsov, all the guys. I think we're really excited, and super pumped to be back in the Abbey Center with a cup under our belt and hopefully a warm welcome.
Yeah, really nice touch, actually, by Adam Foote and the coaching staff. I'm not sure it was intentional, but if it was serendipitous, so well done. Great fans out there. They really got behind the team, Coach Malhotra and the run. Of course, the biggest playoff hero of them all is not here. Artie Silas is now in Pittsburgh. But, yeah, those are the other principals he just name-checked, right? From last year's Calder Cup team, 2 of them will be on his line, the 2 of them on defense, Mancini and Kudryavtsev. I suspect they will be well received, as they should be.
It's on a platter for those 3 guys playing together to stake their best case, use each other to propel themselves closer to an NHL job.
We talked about it yesterday.
Yeah.
We talked about it yesterday. Those 3 guys can really elevate, perhaps above Kravtsov and Lekkerimäki, by playing well with and enhancing everybody's chances and maybe winnowing the field down for that final forward.
And it's incremental, but playing in an arena that you know so well, where the pregame routine is just literally that, a routine for you. Comfort when you look into the corners, like it just everything just seems normal for you. I mean, let's hope they have a good one.
And Sasson had some terrific flashes last year at the NHL level with the Vancouver Canucks. Now, look, there is skepticism about his ability to play the middle in the NHL, which I entirely get. Like, it is a big responsibility to play center at the NHL level. There are defensive responsibilities. You got to be somewhat of a puck distributor. There was a report this summer the Canucks view him as a winger in the NHL, which I also understand. But Coach Foote has dropped him at center ice. We know that's the need in terms of organizational depth. They are one injury away from either Nils Zaman, Max Sasson, or even Braden Coots, if he makes it through camp and preseason, having to play NHL games at that position. And so I like the fact that Foote isn't limiting him and saying, no, son, you're a winger and that's that, because I do think he'll play some center at the AHL level. He was asked about that yesterday. Unsurprisingly, for a young guy, he's comfortable at both.
Yeah, I feel comfortable at both positions. Wherever they tell me to play, I'll obviously do it. So, I love skating up the puck in the middle and kicking it out and center lane driving, all that. And, if I'm on the wall, I feel comfortable there. So, the way we kind of been running things, the first forward back is low, and if that happens to be me, then, I feel comfortable there, and I also feel comfortable on the wall.
Probably should be him, given his speed. He's got the best wheels of the bunch there on that line, so I would guess that he is being chosen for that. Because Karlsson has his center history, not recently, but he does that. If you're looking to manufacture, they looked around and they went, the guy with the best wheels is the guy that we're going to choose.
I don't think Karlsson skates near well enough to play center at the NHL level.
No.
But what he said there, and there's a school of thought about this. I've heard Colby Armstrong articulate it. And actually, as we go forward this year, we may explore the first guy back is low. There are some systems now where the center and the winger is a little bit more interchangeable than in the past, Blake.
Yep. That's the old F1, F2, F3 thing where it's just where you happen to, based on the spontaneous bounces, wherever you find yourself, you become one of these 3 scenarios.
It takes attentive, alert hockey players to play that way, right, and not have systems blown assignments within the system. But again, more discovery with Adam Foote. We'll see what happens there. Footer also saying, by the way, I love the nickname Footer. Like, Talk was pretty good. When you get Talk and then Footer,
it's better than Footsie.
What was Travis's again? Did they call him Greener? Please don't tell me.
I think it was.
Yeah. Willie was just Willie. AV was just AV. Crow was a good one, too.
Yeah.
In fact, suited Mark.
That sounds a little crow-like.
He looked a little avian, too. Footer said Connor Garland was billed for this game, and Foote said if this was a regular season game, Connor Garland would play. But he's not going to play. And Foote said that's because, look, condensed NHL schedule with the Olympic year, he is going to err on the right side of maintenance, Blake. So there you go. Load management rears its head for the first time with the Vancouver Canucks. And last year, JT Miller was billed, didn't play the game for similar reasons.
And you know what? Like that's the thing about there's going to be some disappointed guys that go down to the AHL at the start of the season. Members of this line that we just talked about, well, maybe among them, we know that probably 1 to 2 of the young defensemen will end up down on the farm as well. One can only hope that, either by way of injury or maybe coach's decision and maintenance days and such, that those guys continue to perform at the AHL level. Like we're going to talk about the Whitecaps injury woes. The Whitecaps have so much depth right now. They can bring up young guys and they slot in. And they don't skip a beat. That's a lot to ask of these Abbotsford Canucks, but if you can get some semblance of that, where player X needs a day off, again, under the guise of he could go if it was the playoffs, but why are we going to do that for November the 11th versus the Islanders? Let's bring in so-and-so. The Canucks would love to get to that point because these young players are beating down the door and necessitate some NHL minutes. So
yeah, Braden Coots will not play tonight. The Athletics' Thomas Drance reporting that he is going to get an opportunity with higher octane lineups or line mates in his next preseason game.
Yeah, good.
The other thing I want to
see where he's at.
The other thing I want to note, needless to say, all the power play personnel isn't there tonight. Kudrayatsev is going to run point on one of the units. Wielander's going to be on the left flank. The right flank on one of these units. That's pretty interesting. Höglander is a net front guy. Carlson is a net front guy. Mancini's going to run point on one of these units. And then the Sasson Baines Kravtsov line.
Carlson, for sure. That's his office.
Yeah.
He's a tip machine and a dirty goal machine. It's perfect.
Yeah. Baines, Sasson, Carlson on a line. Kravtsov will join them on that power play unit with Mancini at the back.
And Kravtsov better start to be noticeable.
Yeah.
He doesn't have
he was completely invisible for the most part in that NHL cameo they gave him a couple of years back. There was not a single thing that I remember from Vitaly Kravtsov.
And he has not been startling with the scrimmage or game one. So
the Canucks have announced the first half of their fan engagement schedule for this season until late January. Diwali night goes November 5th versus Chicago, always a popular evening, but also, and we've talked about this in the past, if there's something the Vancouver Canucks do better than anyone in the NHL, it is design jerseys for these theme nights, working with incredibly talented artists who produce just amazing, beautiful work.
The Christmas one in the bottom right corner, if you've got, even that is really... I don't know if anybody would ever buy that as a T-shirt, but why not? It's a Christmas.
With the sled?
Yeah, the sled on the
nice
Canucks skate. It's
really nice
good.
work. So Diwali, we're not going to go through all of them, but Diwali night, November 5th, we do that because the jersey's so awesome. Love this. The first ever Filipino Heritage Night, December 5th versus Utah. I imagine there will be some emotion in the building.
Yes.
Based on the tragedy at the Lapu Festival this past spring.
And Evander Kane's neighborhood, too.
That's right.
Yeah.
If you missed that, Evander Kane talked about how, growing up in East Van and being in that neighborhood and having friends and associations with many in the Filipino community, he was quick to social media that night to express his grief and support for the Filipino community. Good on Evander. Look forward to that evening. The Filipinos are just great sports fans, too, as I make my travels around town. And then lastly, the last one we're going to note, Pride Night is January 21st versus Alex Ovechkin and the Washington Capitals.
Should also be noted that Christmas night is on December the 11th. A little early, but that is the last home game.
2 weeks before Christmas. That's the closest they can do for Christmas. Oh, boy, it's getting awkward, Blake.
Mm-hmm.
In New Jersey, where Luke Hughes is still unsigned and where the insiders report there is still a gulf between Quinn's brother and the Devils on the particulars of a long-term contract. Is this going to last into the season? Tom Fitzgerald called him their priority on July 1st. We are September 24th, and your priority is still unsigned.
Yeah.
Is Luke Hughes available for a Godfather offer, as Blake was touting a few weeks back?
I do think you still try, Matt, but here's the other thing. I think it is a hang-up immediately because they would know that the minute that you even accept a Godfather trade,
the Jack would
Jack
be next.
Jack is next out the door.
Yeah.
Now, he's 5 years away.
Or Biz says they all want to play with the Rangers, so I don't know.
And he's 5 years before he necessarily has to leave. But, yeah, I mean, I'd be tempted if I was Patrick Colvin and Jim Rutherford.
Yeah.
Overpay. You never know.
And farewell or Avidase to Akita Hirose, who is off to Deutschland in the German league. After being a coveted college free agent for the Vancouver Canucks. You remember that, Blake?
Yep.
Did play 10 NHL games over 2 seasons with the Canucks. In fact, did he not start in an opening night lineup a few years back?
I don't recall that.
Anyways, has played the last 2 seasons with the Abbotsford Canucks, played 22 games during their Calder Cup playoff.
Had really weird usage. Like there was times where he was in vogue for Manny Malhotra, and particularly in the playoffs where he played a lot. And then there was other times where he mysteriously was gone for weeks, even uninjured. So like it was interesting Canucks career.
Of course, NHL, AHL, you have to dress X number of
veterans, all that sort of stuff.
You have some roster peculiarities.
And they were a big roster. They were a big roster last year.
Lineup peculiarities, game in, game out. Let's get to today's menu. It's brought to you by our friends at Greta. It's a short walk from Greta to either the stadium or the arena, so a fantastic spot to pregame or postgame. Also an outstanding spot if you are organizing a group outing. Maybe this is a team of yours, they need a sociable. Maybe this is your workplace that needs a team building event. Maybe you got family in town, you want a private space of your own. Greta has the fantastic menu of street food and the incredible arcade that encircles the bar. Your guests will absolutely have a ball. Bottomless wings for $25. For more info to book your event, go to gretabar.com. Greta, 50 West Cordova. Let the games begin. We are going to speak to Frank Corrado here. As mentioned, he's our best X's and O's guys, and we wanted to ask him about adaptability, team identity. Not to mention some of the particulars with the Vancouver Canucks line construction. You're going to want to hear what he has to say about Filip Chytil. He's got a rosy outlook, kind of a counterintuitive take, I would say, a little bit, on Filip Chytil. And then Johal of the Daily Hive, who does such outstanding work day in, day out at Whitecaps training. It is a massive week for Vancouver Whitecaps FC. They can clinch home pitch advantage tonight and the Cascadia Cup with a victory over the rival Portland Timbers. They are into arch rival Seattle on Saturday. And then they're back here, of course, a week from tonight against their city rivals, Vancouver FC, for the Canadian Championship. The list of injuries is extended. Thomas Müller, it wasn't just the one game. We don't want him traveling to Kansas City. It is bigger than that. We'll let Har explain because, well, she's there day in, day out asking all the particulars, all the right questions.
And then drives across town for like Vancouver Rise practice. Like she's everywhere.
She is everywhere.
Pitch.
Massive night in baseball for our teams of interest. Congratulations, Seattle Mariners. Plus, the Lions have a big one on Friday. We'll get you boned up on the stakes for BC because this is effectively a win and you're in playoff game. I know I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but just the way it sets up for Friday night against the Argos at BC Place. And Russell Wilson. We may miss you.
Do we?
Well, I'm not wholly closing.
Miss the era.
I'm not wholly closing the door on Russell Wilson being on an NFL field again for meaningful downs, but it's going to be difficult after the Giants move this week. That's all coming up on the show. Time now for our Bet365 bets of the day. I was on a future yesterday. Blake, did you have a winner last night?
Don't remember.
Going to be a lot of fun tonight as the Calder Cup champions return to Abbey Centre, hoping to make their case to be Vancouver Canucks this season. Because of that, because visitors tend to dress a lesser lineup in preseason, I'm going to take the Canucks minus 1.5 goals tonight, so win by 2, and it pays plus 175.
The Jays are lost. I gleefully jump into my best bet for the weekend. The women's rugby team in the final against England, who have been pretty formidable, have outdone Canada in points. But you're getting a full try converted and 7.5 point dogs are the Canadian underdogs.
Mm-hmm.
I gleefully jump on board with that. So let's go Canada plus 7.5.
This segment of presentation of Bet365, whatever your bet, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app, get in on the game, use code NATION when doing so. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. Frank Corrado coming up next. Secure some price from the historic Wall Center. The Daily Faceoff Survivor Pool is officially live, and if you think you've got the hockey knowledge to go to the distance, this one is for you. It's a game of elimination strategy and a $2,500 grand prize for the last fan standing. Here's how it works. You start with 2 lives each round. You pick one winner from the slate of NHL games, but here's the twist. You can only use each team twice throughout the entire contest. So you get a pick wrong, that's 1 life gone. Lose twice, you're out. Pool runs until there's just one person left standing, and the winner takes home $2,500. So you ready to outlast the rest. Sign up now, dailyfaceoff.com, or hit the link in our show notes. Do we have the link up in our show notes? Eventually the link will be up in our show notes. Here's Frank Corrado, former Vancouver Canuck and TSN hockey analyst.
Frank, how annoying are your friends at this time of year phoning you and texting you about fantasy and pool hints? Are they annoying?
I don't know. Luckily for me, I feel like I don't have a lot of people playing fantasy that are bugging me about stuff. So I feel like I'm okay with
like
with
his friends play in the league, man. Okay, they don't play fantasy hockey. They play real hockey. They play for keeps. Yes. They play for that NHL money.
I feel like people that are fantasy hockey, like they don't care about not that they don't care about analysis. It's like fantasy stuff is different than like breaking down the games in a weird way. I don't know. They feel kind of separate.
Yep.
And counting stats too.
Anybody can read a stats page.
Rather than process. Yes.
Yeah.
We're all about process here though with you, Frankie.
Yeah, if I get first pick, I'm taking McDavid.
It's a good choice.
Doesn't take a lot.
It's a good choice.
Do you remember when we were kids, Frank? You're probably too young for this. When Blake and I were kids, if you did fantasy hockey, either Gretzky was completely removed from the pool,
right,
or you got Gretzky goals or Gretzky assists. You had to split the Wayne Gretzky categories. Otherwise, whoever got first pick would take Gretzky and just win the pool.
That's pretty wild.
I want to say Mario was like that too. That some pools
he was injured enough that it was a little less
Mario.
clear.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Frank, you're our best X's and O's guys, X's and O's guests, and so we wanted to drill down on what Adam Foote was saying last week about team identity with you. For those who missed it, and it is our Redwoods Golf Course poll question today, do you think the Canucks will have a team identity this season? Foote was asked about how he wants to play, what the team's identity is, and he said adaptability. He said, we're going to play different against the big heavy teams than we are against the teams with great speed. We're going to play a little differently against the teams that have terrific offensive acumen versus the teams that may be a little bit more low scoring. So my first question to you is, can adaptability be a team identity?
I don't think so. I kind of think your team is built a certain way, and when it's built a certain way, it should act a certain way. And the teams that have always been known as the best at any given time, you could pinpoint what it was that made them a good team. Like the Vancouver Canucks, when they were, in 2011 on the doorstep of winning a Stanley Cup, we all knew what the identity of that team was. They were fast, they were skilled, they moved the puck up the ice incredibly well. Like that was really nice hockey to watch. The LA Kings that won 2 Stanley Cups, that was junkyard hockey. Like that was just mean, big, physical hockey. The Chicago Blackhawks, like I could go on forever about every, era of teams that had success, and we can pinpoint like what their team identity is. We know right now what the Florida Panthers are, right? Like that's a great blend of like depth and physicality and going to get you into every single scrum. There's like, I don't know, there's like a handful of things that really make up that team's identity. Do all good teams need to be adaptable? For sure. But that's not your MO. Your MO is not that you're just, adaptable to whatever the situation is, because what's your default? What are you kind of making teams have to look out for? So that's where something like that, I'm like, okay, yeah, you need to be able to make adjustments for sure. You don't want to be so staunch in what you believe you're doing, that you kind of, you don't make the right decisions, but you still have to have your identity, your MO. What are you as a team?
Every coach wants to be adaptable. Every coach wants to believe that they're not so dogmatic that they are unwilling to be able to adjust.
No, but Blake, we saw it last year. Rick Tocchet's system, with not a lot of leeway outside of the system, did not work for a number of players.
Right.
So I guess, Frank, then the question is, that was just the wrong system. Or the head coach needs to understand that sometimes the identity he wants to forge is not in the DNA of the particular players, and find a new identity?
Okay, here's where I think being adaptable helps you, right? If a team is throwing a look off, some face-off play, or they're doing something on their breakouts that maybe you didn't account for, you'll make a change within the game. But that doesn't change your identity. As
the micro versus the macro, right?
Yeah, those are just like small little changes that you have to be able to be willing to roll with the punches. But I've seen it where certain coaches will say, I'm not changing my game for that guy. They're going to change for me because I believe what I'm doing is right, and that's wrong either. So that's wrong as well. So it's. At the end of the day, you always have to come back to what you are as a team. All these teams have, sayings or quotes or words up in the dressing room. It's not just decorative stuff. It's stuff that, like, when you need a little reminder of what your team is supposed to be all about. It's like, oh yeah, that's it. We're supposed to be fast, or we're supposed to be really physical, or just we compete our asses off every single night. And maybe those are just non-negotiables. But at the end of the day, it's like, you have to have you just have to have the bones of what you are before you can say you're adaptable. Like that, for me, that's not a team identity, being adaptable.
Gotcha.
My example's
horses.
My example's been the 2011 Stanley Cup final. Like two teams that played each of their own games, and the best team won. The best, the Canucks played their brand. The Bruins played their brand. And the Bruins brand won.
The best team did not win. The best strength team won with
the best game plan won.
Assist,
the best game plan
from
won.
the guys in stripes.
Not skilled.
Yeah.
Best game plan won.
And then after that, why did Vancouver make philosophical changes to how they couldn't just roll out the same type of personnel and say all of a sudden we're just adapting. Well, no, you're not adapting because you don't have the players that play the big truculent style of game. So you have to go and get those types of guys if you want to do it. So if you're Vancouver, you have to ask yourself, we're looking up and down this roster, what are these guys more suited to playing like? You know, and if I look at Vancouver's roster, I think there's a number of guys that move the puck really well on the back end. I think you have some speed on the wing. You're probably not as deep down the middle as you'd like, but if Pettersson and Chytil are healthy, like they're both skilled players. I think you have really good distribution down the middle of the ice. So if I'm trying to pin down what the Canucks are going to be, they can be hardworking, they can be competitive, but I don't see them being like a heavy Florida Panthers type team. But, you know, are they the most skilled team in the league? No, but there's
not that either.
Skilled players there for sure.
But, okay, so first of all, I think that's interesting what you said about Chytil as a distributor. Let me get back to that. But as somebody who liked what he heard from Foote and understood what he was trying to say, and look, you've forgotten more about hockey than I'll ever know, Frank, but I do believe the essence of coaching is not just here's my system, here's how we run it, this is what we're going to do and live and die by it. I do believe you have to account for the opponent, exploit weaknesses, cover up their strengths. But like you talk about hardworking. Well, fuck, it's the same as what you're throwing back at me as a criticism. Every team wants to be hardworking.
Yeah.
Like hardworking isn't an identity.
No,
that's not an identity.
No. Like chip and chase is a identity.
Yeah.
Carry the puck over the blue, like puck possession is an identity.
Embrace the hard
neutral zone trap, much as we may hate it, is an identity. Kings 1-3-1, much as we hate it, is an identity.
But isn't all that an admission? We're just not good enough. We're adaptable? We work hard. Isn't that coach speak for we're not very good? So we're gonna have to,
or we're going to try and win every kind of way.
You know what it kind of says to me? It's like we're not going to pick a lane as far as what we truly are yet. There's going to be nights where we want to carry it in. There's going to be nights where we want to chip it in, and we'll decide based on who we're playing. And the other thing, like, you know, Matt, you brought up neutral zone trap as just, you know, let's use that as an example. There's like three different formations that teams will use. You know, there's like your 1-2-2, 1-3-1 that LA played forever. A lot of teams like Tampa Bay, they've gone to like a 1-1-3. But you basically have what you are. Like, you don't change it based on who you're playing. You don't see the LA Kings come to town and all of a sudden decide, you know what, we're a 1-2-2 team all year, but when this team comes in, we're going to change it and go 1-3-1. You don't do it. You don't practice it. Like, you're just so that's where I think you can't get caught up in saying, well, we're going to adapt to whoever we're playing. Like, you kind of just you do have to a little bit live and die by what you are. Of course, you're adapting the nuances for sure, but I don't know. Then you lose. You always have to have your identity that you come back to when times are bad, when things are going when things aren't going well. So, what is that thing that you come back to if you're just adaptable?
Yeah. And you bring up a great point, Frank, that I intended to ask you about. How difficult is it going to be to install a identity of we're going to play different ways against different opponents? Like, just take the opening week, for example. Thursday home to Calgary. You're not really concerned about their offensive firepower, right? Like, they're not a high-scoring team.
Industrious team.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Saturday night in Edmonton, where you're terrified of their offensive firepower. So how difficult, particularly early in the season, do you think it's going to be for Foote and his staff to install this sort of system or this sort of identity to play starkly different on a night-to-night basis?
Right. So that's the thing. That's why, like, and I'm going to use like defensive hockey mostly to be like the example for all of this, because offensively, you know, it's not that you can't
have to
coach
have it.
The chips are going to fall where they fall sometimes offensively. You got the skill, you don't got the skill. You got the guys that can make the plays, or you don't have the guys that can make the plays. But defensively, like, you need to hammer down all your switch offs in the defensive zone, all your like, where are you going to be when the puck goes here, when the puck goes there, when it goes D to D. You have to have this also. It just becomes instinctual. And if you're constantly changing it because you played Calgary and then you're playing Edmonton, well, then it doesn't become instinctual. It just becomes a thought process, and you're thinking about it. And when you think, you're a little bit slow and it doesn't happen natural. And so that's why, like knowing that you're going to be a layer team in the defensive zone. And this is what we're doing because we think it's right. And we know where the vulnerability is. Every system has its vulnerabilities. Man on man does, the hybrid does, the box and one does. But can we learn this the best we possibly can so that whatever vulnerabilities there are, they're mitigated because we're so dialed in and so detailed on what we do. And so that's why I feel like you have to kind of pick a lane. And if we get 2 months into the season, like this kind of happened, a team I follow a lot here in Montreal, this kind of happened to them, right? It happened to Edmonton a couple years ago, where Edmonton saw how Vegas was playing with the box and one, where it's like a 5-man dice and the centerman's got to go back and forth, and it didn't work. They didn't have the horses to do it, so they had to change what they were doing. Montreal last year wanted to do like the hybrid, man on man. It didn't work for them, so they had to adjust. So as time goes on, you'll see if it works. But if you're just changing it, based on who you're playing, you actually don't even know if it's going to work.
What we can't account for is the nuance in Foote's mind. Like Adam Foote might be thinking, I'm super malleable, but it might be micro adjustments that he thinks is sort of adaptability in his own brain, but is really it's not. So like we're gonna have to see it over 20 games and see exactly what he means by that, I think, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it's a very interesting thing because I would fault coaches for not being willing to be nimble and make adjustments. But the adjustments come when you've kind of hammered down what you are already, right? And so that'll be, I think you have to use all the time you possibly can here throughout the preseason, throughout the rest of the practices, to really instill what you're going to be about. Every other team's doing it. They use narrative words, they use buzzwords, but they kind of stick for guys. Those words, they mean something for hockey players. It's like a language that you understand. So I think you have to hammer down those details and those words and those narratives with your guys as much as you can.
You think Chytil can be a distributor, huh?
I think he's got good hands and he's got good vision and he makes nice plays with the puck. From what I've seen of Filip Chytil's game, especially when he's been healthy and been at his best, like there's a passing element there that I think sometimes can catch people by surprise. So yeah, I do believe there's a good distribution aspect to his game. I take it you see him more of a shooter, but I think
I haven't. So first of all, I would not argue with you on the X's and O's of a player that I've seen, a handful of games from. He stood out as a Vancouver Canuck last year because he played with pace and he liked to carry the puck in the zone. And he even talked this week about how after his first few games, like Talk had basically neutered him a little in terms of carrying the puck into the offensive zone. I just see a guy who hasn't put up particularly big totals when you're talking about assists and passing the puck, nor has he been used in a role with the New York Rangers where that was pronounced. I mean, his career year was 22, 23 for 45, right? Like he's, he looks more like that mid-rotation starter, right? He's 14 and 14, So, but you know way more than I do on the X's and O's. And if you say that, then that's something I'm looking for.
Listen, I think first and foremost, it's about him being healthy. We can all agree with that. Yeah. With him in New York, he was not playing the role that he's going to play with Vancouver. Like, he was always kind of, fighting for ice time, a little bit lower in the lineup. There were guys ahead of him on the totem pole. So, like, that's not going to help his numbers. But I just think from like if you take the numbers away and you watch him kind of carry the puck and watch how he goes about his business. I mean, I wouldn't say he's like a sharpshooter, but I definitely would say like there's a playmaking element to his game for sure.
Well, and the fact is, Frank,
more passer than shooter. I think a little bit for sure. And that we'll see how that translates to this year with Vancouver.
Well, and the thing is, Frank, if he is going to be a bona fide second-line centerman in the National Hockey League, then one of those two things has to be enhanced, right? Then either you are going to have to score more goals and be that shoot-first center,
We're back to
or
identity.
you are going to have to be
identity for Filip Chytil.
more of a puck
Identity is
distributor
important
on a
an
line.
individual level, man. Like, guys go through it. Like, guys struggle. The best players in the world struggle. You've heard Connor McDavid say, "I got no confidence right now." You're like, that guy, like, he's still putting up points every single night, but he's got no confidence. And you always come back to it, like, okay, what's my identity?
They've had Lekramaki on that second line with Chytil and Kane, although I think that's just trying to give him a chance, saying, hey, we'd really like you at some point this season to be a top 6 scoring winger. So I'm not sure that position is quite as set in stone, Frank, but Kane seems to be a constant there. Do you like the duo of Chytil and Evander Kane?
Well, the thing I like about it is, like, Kane is so imposing and come up with pucks and can use his body quite well. I think it's nice to have that with Filip Chytil. Not in the old school like enforcer type way where, he's going to like clear a lot of room for the guy, but just to be able to get pucks to Chytil, to ultimately see what he can do with it, like to have it on his stick more, because when he does have it on his stick, like, he's the guy who's making the plays. Like, Kane's going to be direct. He's going to bring it to the net. It's going to be very straight line type stuff, and that's good, and you need that. But having someone who I think, anyways, can be a pretty slick passer, getting the puck to a guy who can play inside the dots and around the net, it should shape up to be a good combination. Like everything at this point in training camp, they all sound good in theory. You have to see, like, not all these lines that the coaches want to work will work right away. But in theory, like, for me, it does make sense having the two guys paired together.
To me, the most important guy on that line is going to be Connor Garland, which is where I think Connor Garland should be, because we don't yet know what Chytil will look like. And Kane plays in a straight line, as you said, Frank. I think it's a moderate squiggle for Chytil, and it's a full-on squiggle, whirling dervish
for Connor
Garland.
Yeah,
and I like the balance there.
Straight lines. No straight lines.
Yeah. No, and listen, if you're rolling out a line with Evander Kane and Connor Garland, like, and I'm hopping over the boards and I got to play against that line, I think that's no fun for different reasons, right? For different reasons. One guy's going to overpower you. One guy's really going to lean on you. And the other guy's just so annoying in every aspect. Like, he gets under you. He wins battles. He, like, hits you in weird spots. He gets body positioning so many times, especially in front of the net. Like, those are two guys that are, like, just not fun to have to play against for the duration of a game. And listen, Chytil's not that type of guy, but all of a sudden you put him with two guys that are really, like, making it a point to be on the inside and to get to the front of the net. There should be something there. Like, I think it's okay to be, like, cautiously optimistic about what that line could bring to the table.
Lastly, very quickly, your paisan Mancini. Did you see him on Sunday? And did you see what Foote said about him? How got to calm him down a little bit in the neutral zone, but other than that, big, powerful man and looked the part.
Yeah. He had the happy feet going in the neutral zone. Is that what was going on?
Yeah.
I like that. I got an email from someone actually who watches the show.
Oh.
her name is Cindy. She goes, I tuned into the Matthew and Blake show here in Vancouver. They mentioned my name once about Philip Giuseppe, how he took the time in Abbotsford to talk to a fan.
That's
that fan
right.
Was me. I just want to know how he's doing in Winnipeg, she said.
She asked me that today. She's a huge Di Giuseppe fan and very loyal audience member. Well, we'll watch Mancini's progress here in Vancouver. Frank, you watch Di Giuseppe's progress for Cindy in Winnipeg. Okay, your buddy, your childhood friend from way back. And we'll catch up next Wednesday, my dude.
Okay,
Thank you.
Boys. Have a good one.
So Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center. And Blake, I was thinking this week, the Whitecaps supporter in this city is so well serviced by the media ecosystem around this team. I know some of them would want all the games on TSN and maybe more chatter on the local sports talk. But when I look at the digital outlets that cover this team, the blogs, the podcasts, those on social media, boy, the cup runneth over. There is all sorts of information and entertainment available out there on the Whitecaps during this glorious season of theirs, and none better than our next guest. We cite her work constantly on this show. It was time to bring Johal of the Daily Hive on to talk about this very big week for the Caps. Thanks for making time. Appreciate this.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Blake. It's an honor to be on your show.
Oh, you're too much. Müller. We got to start with Müller, because last week when I saw you write, he's questionable for the game with an adductor injury, I just went, European guy, designated player-ish, even if he's not technically. They're just saving him the trip halfway across the continent to Kansas City. They probably don't need him there anyways. He'll be fine. And then when I saw he wasn't on the pitch training yesterday, I got a little more nervous, and he won't play tonight against Portland. Tell us what's up with Müller.
Well, it's not only yesterday. Monday, he wasn't on the pitch training. During the open portion, which I was there on Tuesday, he wasn't running laps. So he's working in the gym. He had a medicine ball, so he's day-to-day at the minute. I don't see this as a long-term injury. They want to manage it because you want to get him right for the stretch drive for the playoffs. So hopefully he'll be available and fit for the Seattle game on Saturday. They have 2 more training sessions later this week, and it'll be key to see if he's out there, if he's partially training, if he's fully training, what he's able to do. But with a player like Thomas Müller, you want to make sure he's fit and he's healthy and he feels great, because the games in the playoffs, those are the ones that matter.
Well, I was going to ask you, because so many of these big European DPs come over from domestic leagues where it is very short travel within the league, and they see the length of flights, and they have to experience what that's like in terms of recovery and rest between matches. Do you know whether all the travel of MLS is in any way sort of daunted Thomas? Has he said anything about that? Do you have any indication that that's something that the Caps are going to have to mitigate and protect against going forward?
I can't imagine. As we've seen this schedule for the Whitecaps, a lot of home games, they go down to Seattle, just down the road. I'm looking at that Orlando game
yes.
in October during the international break, when you're going to be missing players and having some players that are still dealing with injuries. Now, if he's not on that flight, if he's not fit and healthy to play in Orlando, then maybe alarm bells go off a little bit. But for now, it's early in his tenure. He's here and he's committed, and we've seen what he's done on the pitch. So I don't buy into that. He knows where Vancouver is on a map. He knows how far the travel is and long distance flights, and even going down to Southern California next season. So I don't think that's a big issue right now. I don't think it's something we need to be worried about as fans.
They need him for that Orlando match because so many guys are going to be missing in that international window. So that's definitely a goal if it's not this weekend. Anyhow, just to be clear again, Müller, Gauld, Pupa, Schonlau, Blackman, Adekubi, Veselinovic all injured for tonight. Yeah. Ocampo and Kubas with the yellow card suspensions. I can plug in players for pretty much every position. I'm a little bit stuck on the number 6 for tonight. Maybe it's Ralph Priso, who has played there in the past, but we haven't seen Ralph for a lot of time recently. And then right back. Who's number 6? Who's right back tonight, do you think, for Jesper?
There's several options that Jesper is keeping closely guarded, so we could see a back three, maybe with some wing backs, back five when they're defending. That's an option they've been working on in practice a little bit. I think they'll go with the traditional four defenders because it's worked really well, and he's done a lot of that this season. So obviously, I expect Matthias Laborda, Bilal Halaboudi to start, and then I imagine Tate Johnson on the left side, the right side.
They have to. Yeah.
That's the question mark. Maybe Giuseppe Bovalina. Maybe you have a Jaden Nelson over there with his speed. So there's a lot of options. And, well, there's not a lot of options, but we'll see.
Yeah.
And then number 6, is it Ralph, or do you see Sebastian, who early in his tenure when he was a kid would play there as an understudy, but then we decided he's a really good offensive player, and so he's been up the pitch. So where's Seb play?
Yeah, he's been a great two-way player this year, so I don't think you want to deviate from that. I think you mentioned Ralph Priso. I think maybe JC Nagando gets a run-up because he's kind of been getting a lot more minutes, and we've seen how well he's done. And so I think that could be something that Jesper looks to. And you also have to keep in mind they've had a lot of games recently, and you want to keep an eye towards Seattle a little bit and maybe not run out some of those players and get any further injuries. Hopefully not.
Yeah, and as we know, they can clinch home pitch in the first round here with the chase pack so far back, and of course the Caps having these games in hand. Har, I know you're there, and you've watched the whole Ryan Gauld story since March 8th with the kneecap sprain, and I mean we're more than 6 months, going on 7. If you had to guess, when do you think we see Ryan Gauld on the pitch playing for the Caps?
October.
The final 3 matches then, is that correct?
So that's the Canadian Championship against VFC on the 1st. I imagine not that one. So it's San Jose on the 5th, Orlando on the 11th, or the last game of the season, Dallas on the 18th.
I think it's still a little bit too early to even have him on the bench for the Seattle game because this is his second week where he's had full training. He's had 5 sessions in the 9 days, and so he'll have a few more this week with the team and then a couple more next week. So if we're going to be super optimistic, maybe he has a spot on the bench in the Can Champ final next Wednesday, but I would look towards that San Jose game, maybe more realistic at the end of the week, a Sunday. I think that could be an option. I imagine they would want to get him into a game or 2 before the playoffs, and so I look at San Jose. You have Orlando, we mentioned, and Dallas as well. So I expect in one of those 3 games at least, and I would keep an eye towards San Jose.
I don't even know that you need to start him. I would go 15, 30, 45 in those final 3 matches in an ideal world. And then maybe, if all that goes well, start him in the opener. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I agree. I would not play him more than 15 minutes because he hasn't played in 6 months, and this is his first training sessions this week and last week, and so he's really ramping up. It's like a preseason, so he needs to get his levels up, his strength up. He needs to be tackled. He needs to be able to jump and turn.
That first tackle, oh my goodness, that first tackle, hard. Everybody's gonna be holding their breath here. I mean, can you imagine?
And those setbacks as well. You can't have anything go haywire. He needs to feel great the next morning. He looks happy, he's smiling, he's involved, and so it's a lot of positive signs for the Whitecaps and the fans.
Har, we have witnessed this year, because of this fantastic Cap season, so many boats have been floated internationally, whether that's a Canadian like Ali Ahmed, an American like Sebastian Berhalter, some of the South American players as well. But we got a new shooter in this regard. I've seen you and others report that the Japanese national team is now taking a longer and harder look at Yohei Takaoka. I mean, that's just got to be music to his ears, right? Like to play in a World Cup for Japan and potentially even at BC Place, or at the very least here in North America where he plays his club football. Tell us about his season. What do you think his chances are of playing for Japan next year at the World Cup?
Yes, I talked to him on Tuesday. He would love to represent his country as most footballers would. And so the coach was here in Vancouver for the Philadelphia game, scouted Yohei. Obviously, there was not a lot of work he had to do in that game to pick up the clean sheet. And so We'll see what happens with the international windows and if Japan wants to call him up. Being, across, being in Japan, it's hard to maybe see MLS and get a live look at Yohei. So being in North America for that tour, popping in to see him, it was a big benefit for Yohei. And so we'll see how closely they call him up and see if they're interested in him. But for now, I think he's just happy to be on the radar and be acknowledged.
Yeah, he leads MLS with 13 clean sheets. I mean, there were a couple of times in Vanni Sartini's tenure, where I felt like Yohei was right on the edge that Vanni might be looking to make a move there. What's accounted for his fantastic season this year? How much of it has to do with him? How much of it has to do with Sorensen's system and the way they've played in front of him?
It's a lot of structure and making sure that he doesn't have a lot of work to do, as I mentioned. The defense in front of him is playing fantastic, and they're on the ball. They have possession. They're going up the pitch. So Yohei's, he's back there having some sake, maybe some sushi, not a lot to do. And so I think that's given him confidence. He's been working with Yusuf in his third season now. He credited Jan with the defensive work, the structure that the team has, and a lot of the rules defensively. They know what to do, and it's interchangeable because we've seen all the injuries and all the different players that have been on that back line, and they haven't skipped a beat. They have allowed the lowest amount of goals in MLS this season. They have the best goal differential. I would credit maybe a whole team defensive aspect for how he's having the success this year.
I hope he keeps his shoes on at the very least. I think it's very important for goalkeepers to be wearing soccer boots. Yep. The Japanese-born Kenji Cabrera, we're starting to get a flavor for him. Remember when the Caps transferred Pedro Vite away, it looked like he was the replacement. Ultimately, it's been more really Thomas Müller who's been the replacement. But Cabrera is coming of age here, and he is looking pretty damn good as well. With all these injuries, he's going to prove to be very useful tonight, I would suspect, and possibly on the weekend. Talk about what you've seen from Kenji Cabrera so far, who is also hoping for the World Cup as he represents Peru.
He has a high skill set, a lot of confidence. We saw the give and go he and Ali Ahmed had the other day. We saw his perfect shot, which led to his goal. So he has a lot of creativity, and with the injuries, he's getting an opportunity to start and show what he can do and building his confidence. And when the playoffs start, you're going to need a lot of people contributing, a lot of players on offense. And so I think he's someone that fans can look to and see that he's been a great when he stepped in and he's had a chance to deliver.
Lastly, from me, Har, they can win the Cascadia Cup tonight, even before they have to go to Seattle. On Saturday, they can vault back into first place of the Western Conference tonight with a victory, leapfrogging San Diego. And as Blake has been tracking, they could still very much win the Supporter Shield. In fact, I saw the MLS tweet, power rankings. They're back on top, the MLS power rankings for this week. How much chatter have you heard from the players in terms of these achievements that lie before them and how meaningful it would be to them?
It's definitely meaningful because you want to have a season where you have a lot of accolades, a lot of records. A win against Portland would give them 17 wins, the most in MLS season for Vancouver. And so with every point, they're climbing up the table. They want to catch Philadelphia for the Supporter Shield. So with these games in hand, it's up to the Whitecaps to go and get those results. And so I think home pitch advantage is maybe the first goal to set, and then we'll see if they can catch San Diego, catch Philadelphia. But they're all looking one step ahead. They don't want to get too far ahead of themselves with these games to go. But yeah, it's fantastic. They've had a fantastic, brilliant season, and so it's a great time to be a Whitecap supporter.
Yeah, it is.
Great team right now.
Yeah, the win tonight, they clinch home pitch and vault over San Diego.
Yeah, the standings are starting to make some sense now after tonight with the games in hand.
Yeah, because they've been two behind some of their, and it'll be one. It's 7:30 tonight at BC Place against the Portland Timbers, and then into Seattle and that great crowd at Lumen Field on Saturday, also a 7:30. Har, outstanding. Thank you very much. Appreciate all the work you do day to day on the Caps. Thanks for the time here today.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a great day.
So Carson Price from the historic Wall Center, big game downtown. Make it more than just a night. Make it a memory. Stay steps from the action here at the Sheraton Vancouver Wall Center with that exclusive Carson Price rate. Call 604-331-1000. Mention our show. Some blackout dates apply, subject to availability. The Seattle Mariners are going back to the postseason for the first time since 2022. Just the fourth time this century, just the sixth time in franchise history. It's a 50-year-old franchise. Almost. M's come back to beat Colorado 4-3 at T-Mobile last night on a 3-run double from Canadian Josh Naylor in the 8th inning. Boy, has he been good, huh? Since the trade.
He is become
unbelievable.
But he's just a city darling. Like people,
they love him.
Like they are going to riot in the streets if this guy is not re-signed by the Mariners. Like they absolutely love this Canadian.
He looks like an everyman. He's lumpy.
Yeah,
and yet he's fast, or at least he steals bases.
And
you don't have to be fast to be a good base. You just have to be a good base runner. He's that. He's got some power.
Lumpy Josh Naylor and
Big Dumper.
And Big Dumper.
You got Lumpy and Dumpy.
It's amazing.
Bullpen was outstanding last night, too. 3 1/3 scoreless ball, allowing just 2 base runners. That allowed for the comeback. They clinched because the Yankees also win, and you're saying, wait a second, aren't the Yankees also in this playoff hunt in the AL? They are. It's complicated. It's about tiebreakers. Ask no questions, M's fans.
The biggest thing you need to know is that the New York Yankees are getting hot at just the right time, and the Blue Jays are playing mediocre baseball. And so the dream of the Jays and Mariners crossing paths in the ALCS with a berth in the World Series in the line, it is in jeopardy. It is in peril.
M's now 4 games up on the Astros in the West. The Astros lose to the Athletics last night. If the playoffs started today, the M's would be the 2 seed. The Jays would be the 1st seed. They would both get a first-round bye.
For a moment, at least.
Seattle can clinch tonight with a victory and a Houston loss. Then there's
4-game lead.
The Blue Jays, or should I call them the Blow Jays? A 4-1 loss at home to Boston, who are still yet to clinch their playoff spot, but they're a good bet. Red Sox get 2 RBI and a run scored from waiver cast-off Nate Lowe. They get to Kevin Gausman like few teams have in the second half of this season, and the Jays' lead over the Yankees is now down to 1. And if I might, I want to put longtime audience member Rob the Siding Guy on blast here for a minute. Wake up yesterday morning to this tweet. This year's Blue Jays has shades of 87, where they have a slim lead going into the last week to win the division. Only difference is if they blow it this year, they still get a chance at the wild card, but that'll be a disappointment after the last 3 months have gone.
Yeah.
Why you got to go there, Rob? They won Sunday, Rob. This was unprompted and unnecessary. We shall never speak of that season again, Rob.
Who's playing the role of Manny
we trying
Lee?
To tweet that into existence, Rob? Like, are you an M's fan, Yankees fan? What gives there?
Yeah, it's their inability to hit a frickin' baseball is startling. And I saw John Morosi after the game talking about,
losing Bichette is now showing up, right?
But it's not just even about what he's added. Everybody else has hit. Is his mere presence in the lineup caused everybody else to play better?
Yeah, I
coincidental or otherwise.
When he left the lineup, he was leading baseball in hits. So he just gets on base a lot, which allows the rest of that lineup to, because, the Nathan Lucases of the they're going to move runners over, they're going to sacrifice. And if you're unfamiliar with the 87 Jays, they led Detroit by 3.5 games going into the final week of the season. They got swept at home against Milwaukee. Then they got swept by Detroit at Tiger Stadium on the final weekend of the season. They lost game 162 1-0 on a line drive, wall-scraping home run by Larry Herndon to the old left field at Tiger Stadium. Frank Tanana outdueled Jimmy Key 1-0 in a battle of crafty lefties, and the Jays, as low as the blown lead against the Mariners was in the playoffs 3 years ago, Blake, as low as the loss to Minnesota was when they yanked Barrios for Kikuchi, you remember the analytically driven pitching change against Minnesota 2 years, even going back to the ALCS with Oakland where Ricky Henderson dominated them, as low as those moments were, there was nothing that approached the feeling of the 87 final week collapse. Back then, all the games weren't on television. I can remember listening to Tom Cheek and Jerry Howarth in that Milwaukee series going like, oh, okay, well, they still got a lot of opportunity here. I can remember listening to the Saturday game, 161 on the radio, and just going, oh, my God, they are going to blow this. And they did.
And what, the penultimate game or the third last game where it goes through Manny Lee's legs?
Yep.
Like, they did everything they needed to do
to lose the division.
Games.
Yeah, they did. And Rob's just out here casually tweeting it like, doesn't get any easier for Toronto tonight. They face one of the best pitchers in baseball, Garrett Crochet, the Red Sox. They counter with Max Scherzer. Magic number still 4. As we mentioned, the M's can win the division with a victory over Colorado. Houston lost. Luis Castillo goes for them. 2 pieces of good news for the Jays. Anthony Santander returned from the DL. They're hoping Bichette is next. The club designated big right-hander Alek Manoah for assignment. He was a Cy Young finalist in 2022, but has since been hurt and struggled. He was rehabbing at AAA. And I guess they just felt like he wasn't going to be able to get major league hitters out, even with open spots in the rotation next year. I was a little bit surprised by that.
They activate Santander, though, and he's not even dressed for yesterday. He wasn't available in any capacity. So it's just curious timing. Like, if you're activating him, isn't he supposed to be ready?
You know, like all hands on deck at this stage, one would think. The other piece of good news, Trey Savage named the Minor League Player of the Year by Baseball America. And his Vancouver Canadians teammate, Gage Stanifer, was in Toronto last night to support him. Saw Gage did a round of interviews. Of course, we saw Arjun Namala and some of the other Vancouver Canadians down in Tampa supporting Savage for his first start in the bigs. I got to say, that Blue Jays clubhouse is fun. They looked like a together group, and I think you're starting to see that culture trickle down here to the minor leagues. And some of these guys who have had success together. You can see the next wave of Jays prospects at Nat Bailey Stadium next spring and summer. Get your C's tickets, 604-872-5232 or CanadiansBaseball.com. BC Lions must not worry about the future. Neither the near term nor the long term. Okay, quarterback Nathan Rourke hates the new rules. He has now become the chaplain of the CFL game as we have known it for 125 years. Our rules, our game, including the Rouge. He's the godfather of that crew now. And look, it's still going to be tough to host a playoff game in what's left of this season. But if they take care of business at home Friday against Toronto, they will have a 3-game lead over the Argos for the final postseason, CFL postseason spot, and at least a 2-game, if not 3-game lead over Edmonton. Bottom line, Blake, win this one, you absolutely should be in. It's not technically a clinching scenario, but it might as well be. They are hoping to get offensive tackles Dejon Allen and Jarrell Broxton back this week, as well as slot back Javon Coutoy and running back James Butler, although Xander Horvath looked outstanding in his stead last night.
Most importantly, you need to win
Friday.
this week to set yourself up for the massive game versus the Stamps.
On Saturday, week Saturday at BC Place, the Turkey Bowl, the Gravy Bowl game where they have opened the upper deck.
And where, if you win this week, you have a chance to make a move towards home field in the playoffs, and who'd have thought we'd be able to say that? But you need to win this one.
Yeah. Because if you win this one and you win against Calgary, you own the tiebreaker against Calgary. Now, Calgary's got a game in hand still, but you own the tiebreaker against Calgary, and you've got that fighting chance. Things look good for pass rusher Bradley and Nye, so much so they released edge rusher Kamoko Toure yesterday. Safety Christophe Beaulieu didn't practice yesterday. That would be a loss. Ditto for defensive tackle Dwayne Hendricks. Something else I learned just this morning by reading Dave Naylor's article on tsn.ca. I knew the new rules were driven by the commissioner, Stuart Johnston. I knew it was a relatively small group because they wanted to keep it hush-hush. And I knew that Johnston took this rules package to the governors who approved it unanimously. I did not realize he wholly bypassed the rules committee. Like, typically, this would be something that goes to the rules committee. And a couple of people have told me this year that one of the things that Stuart Johnston has identified in his governance of the CFL is that there was too much power concentrated in football operations people and at the team level, and that he wanted to take back a little bit of control of the league. Fair enough, neg lists being publicly available, Blake. That was something that the team football ops people, GMs, and the U.S. scouts used to kick and scream, no, we can't have that public, blah, blah, blah. It means agents will be calling us. It's such a big hassle for us. Johnson said, I don't care. It's a way to grow the game. Let people know who's on that Lions neg list, who could be quarterbacks of the future if they're flipping around the dial on a Saturday and they're seeing all these college football games.
It drives interest.
It does. But to those who want to argue, as Nathan Rourke did, that this was a failure of process on the part of the commissioner, that criticism is valid when you bypass the rules committee. Like, that is the body of people who have the most expertise on the rules and the subtleties of the game and how changing this can affect X, Y, and Z. And so if you do have that unintended consequences phenomenon that we have talked about this year, Blake, I think there's going to be a lot more criticism of Johnston and the process of this rules package, much like we heard from Nathan Rourke this week. It will be fair criticism.
I'm okay with them disagreeing with the rules committee, bypassing them entirely, though, and not consulting them at all. Like, sure,
that's irregular, Blake.
Yeah,
that is a big gavel move, right? I
think the
it's
governors,
like Trump and the executive orders. I don't need Congress. I'll just sign my own.
Except it's not one guy. He did get governor approval. He got
governor approval, and he said we worked with football operations people inside the league office, which, okay.
Well, and also, like, you're asking every governor to vote. Presumably it wasn't a surprise vote. And so I would assume, maybe the governors were asked not to discuss with their own football ops. But
yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. Mike O'Shea certainly sounded like he was taken aback in Winnipeg, and that is very strange because O'Shea has a very, very big presence in that organization, and I'm surprised that his GM and his president, maybe his GM didn't even know.
Maybe it got to the GM level, not the coach level. Maybe it was that. Who knows?
Oh, boy. NFL, where Russell Wilson is out as starting quarterback of the New York Giants. It took just 3 games for head coach Brian Daboll to turn to the rookie from Ole Miss, Jackson Dart. You asked me 2 very good questions yesterday when you saw this news. Will Russell Wilson ever start another NFL game? And is he a Pro Football Hall of Famer? I have trouble with the second one, Blake. Our old friend Shireen Williams, who sits on the Pro Football Hall of Fame selection committee, says the question that body debates every Super Bowl weekend, or used to be Super Bowl weekend, can you write the history of the league and exclude candidate A? I think you can write the history of the NFL and exclude Russell Wilson.
Here would be my devil's advocate.
I recognize he's the starting quarterback of a Super Bowl champion, but he was not the driver of that championship team. That team won a championship because it had one of the best secondaries we have ever seen, the Legion of Boom, and because of an outstanding running game with Marshawn Lynch. Russell Wilson was a very good game manager. As a dual-threat young quarterback, he did what he needed to do, but he was not the engine of that championship team.
Here's what I would offer. Not many dual-threat quarterbacks have won the Super Bowl. So he's on a very short list there.
He is.
He is also amongst the best fourth-quarter quarterbacks in the history of the game.
Do you know where he stands for all-time? I'll look it up if you don't.
Yeah. I mean, it would be top 5 for sure. In his career, amongst his contemporaries, he was 1 or 2 for a long time. So, in terms of the history, I mean, he's
ninth all-time, 32 comeback victories, or fourth quarter comeback victories.
Yeah.
To rank 9th all-time. He's second amongst active quarterbacks.
I mean, that's a pretty exciting
only Matthew
player.
Stafford is
That's
better.
a pretty exciting player. When you're the architect of that many comeback victories, that's pretty exciting.
Yep. He slots in between Marino and Elway. Pretty good company.
Like, let's face it. Like, if one of those other good seasons becomes a great season and they win, I mean, maybe this is too simplistic, but if he even gets to one more Super Bowl, I think it's a slam dunk. It's really close, though.
On the comeback victory list, so Breeze, Brady are ahead of him, not in the Hall. They will be. Roethlisberger, I suspect, as well. Matt Ryan? Probably. Matt Ryan has an MVP, though, a league MVP. Russ doesn't have a league MVP.
Matt Ryan does not have a Super Bowl? Does have one?
No, he does not. Well, like 28-3, baby.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. He's something like 15th all-time in touchdown passes and like 12th in passing yards, or I may have those mixed up. You do have to take modern day passing totals, well, with more than a grain of salt, like with a pretty good shake of salt, because you were telling me Unitas and Montana are back to back at like number 24, mid-20s on the all-time passing yards list, and there would have been a time when you had
they were gods.
They
were gods.
My dad's generation, Johnny Unitas is the greatest quarterback who ever played. Our generation, or our older brother's generation, maybe Joe Montana is the greatest quarterback ever, and both of those statements would have been facts at one point.
And they're mid-20s now. So there's an era adjustment.
I don't think you can. I don't think you can just look at the raw numbers and say he's a Hall of Fame.
And along those lines, you have to think about expansion too. So when you think about who's got a Super Bowl and all that sort of stuff, like and who's an MVP, like those guys did not have 31 competitors for MVP. They did not have 31 competitors for a Super Bowl. So that goes in their favor now.
Yeah. 37 years old in November, Blake. Does he start another game? Well,
I would say
I would think the Giants are probably bad enough. Dart gets hurt, something like that. So I see 2 routes to him starting another game this season with the Giants. He may very well be a trade piece as well before the deadline, and quarterback insurance for someone.
I'll say this:
does he want to play next year?
He's getting maligned for this 4th and goal series last week, where he threw away 2 balls and they went out 4th and goal and didn't get any points out of the whole deal. If you watch the sequence, to be fair, that offensive line collapses on him immediately, and the groundings are pretty bad, but he does not have much working in front of him as an offensive line.
He is a free agent after this season. He is playing for an itty-bitty base salary this year and a signing bonus because, of course, he got all that money.
Yeah, we're not worried about his bank
accounts. His bank account's going to be just fine. Yeah. Seahawks in Arizona tomorrow for Thursday Night Football, where Devin Witherspoon, Julian Love, Nicky Manwari, all expected to be game-time decisions, so could still have some problems in the secondary and coverage-wise, although they look good against a very bad team last week. It also looks good for running back Zach Charbonnet, so I think they will have that 1-2 punch with Kenneth Walker. Results of the Redwoods Golf Course poll question from Tuesday. We asked you if Hughes Roenick and Marcus Pettersson-Myers are locked in, what do you want the third defense pair to be? The options were DPD Forbert, DPD Mancini, DPD Wielander. People said?
I think people fell in line with us. DPD Mancini.
They did. Percentage?
55.
60. DPD Forbert was 27, 28. DPD Wielander was 12. Other was 1. Clark says, am I the only one who thinks Mancini is a better prospect than Patterson? Sizzling take, Clark.
Yeah. We'll see. What I'm worried about is DPD is that he burned bright early and he doesn't live up to it, but I hope he proves.
Saw a bunch of this. Rob, it'll be DPD Forbert because someone has to kill penalties. Yes, that is true. That Derek Forbert's route to playing every night is penalty killing. He played 2 minutes, 14 seconds per night on the PK last year. He actually played slightly more on the PK than Tyler Myers did. So I suspect Marcus Pettersson, Philip Roenick, Derek Forbert, Tyler Myers are your penalty-killing duos.
Yeah.
DPD actually played almost nothing on the PK last year. I was surprised to see that.
Yeah, he's the right profile. I think they'll train him up.
Much like Ratu, right, who didn't play a lot of PK last year. Morris says Forbert Mancini. Thought that was interesting. And Logan says Mancini jumping Forbert for that third pairing is the perfect storm for the Canucks. Forbert becomes the 7th D, ready to step in the odd games for the younger guys. Wheelander goes and plays top 4 minutes, and Abby probably pair him with Kudryavtsev. And when Myers leaves, he slides in. Basically the point you made yesterday.
And Mancini's got the length, too, in terms of being a penalty killer. Like, you could train him up penalty killing, too. Like, he's
you should.
He's got the reach, sweeping that stick around. I think he could be effective.
Yep. Errors and omissions from yesterday's program and beyond. A small one. Vasily Podkolzin's contract is technically $2.95 million per year, not $3 million. Small potatoes.
Also, small one. I sort of insinuated that I forget what we were discussing. We were discussing, I don't know,
reporting,
but the baseball robo umpiring that I was alluding to in the it's a challenge. So the humans are still going to be calling balls and strikes. But if you think it was outside the strike zone, you've got 2 challenges per game.
Right.
Where you go to Hawkeye, and if you're right, you keep it. If you're wrong, you lose it.
Every team is going to use all their challenges.
Yeah.
Because there are more than 2 balls or strikes missed against
in the minor leagues, by the way, it was 52% overturning. So you are winning the majority of the time.
Can I just ask about the folly of this, though? Like, I can see on my television, and I can particularly see on some of the sports apps that I use, if the ball's in the strike zone or not.
Yeah.
Like, I appreciate you still need a human at home plate for plays at the plate. But we're going to a challenge system where everybody in the ballpark and millions watching at home know whether it's a ball or a strike.
Yeah.
Like there's not a lot of discretion involved there.
And I'll say this,
like we're not talking about, did his pinky toe get down, or is it on the stripe? Is he out of bounds or inbounds? It's not one of those calls. It's more black and white.
I would say that for the first 80% of the season, I've actually thought that the balls and strikes are called pretty accurately.
No, Major League Baseball umpires are the best officials in the big 4 sports.
That being said,
they have been, at least.
I feel like in the last 2 weeks when I've been watching, they've been less than that. It's slipping a little bit here in the last 2 weeks.
Especially watching some of these Blue Jays games.
Yes.
The Springer foul ball yesterday and the Varsho non-catch. And then that home run business in Tampa Bay with the fan interference. Like, there are some Jays fans thinking that Coley Campbell and the fix is in here with regards to Major League Baseball doesn't want our team in the playoffs.
Those aren't balls and strikes. I'm talking just pure balls and strikes. I've last night alone. Go watch the last couple innings.
All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate you spending some time connecting with the program. Please do subscribe to all our assorted channels, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Blake would really like you to subscribe to YouTube. He tracks those numbers. Please follow on social. That's X, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky, live on many of those platforms. Noon Pacific time weekdays. Should tell you we will not have a show next Tuesday, the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. If major Canucks news breaks.
We'll be show Monday, though.
Yes, there will be a show Monday. And emergency pod if anything big breaks next Tuesday. And, of course, please do support the community sponsors you hear us telling you about, and keep it local.